Hello, and welcome to Publishing Essentials for LitMags, a series of webinars created to deliver a foundation in business skills for arts, literary, indie, and other small magazines. My name is Joyce Byrne, and it's my pleasure to produce Publishing Essentials on behalf of the Alberta Magazine Publishers Association. In today's lesson on successful special projects, we are pleased to welcome Laurie D. Graham. Laurie grew up in Treaty 6 territory, east of Edmonton, and has lived in Peterborough, Ontario, in the territory of the Michi-Saagiig Anishinaabeg since 2018, where she is a poet, an editor, and the publisher of Brick, a literary journal. With 2 decades of experience working with literary journals in Canada, Laurie has edited the work of writers the world over, including Anne Carson, Michael Ondaatje, Louise Erdrich, Sheila Heti, Don DeLillo, Ocean Vuong, and many others. She is on the steering committee of the Literary Magazines Canada Collective, and she is the chair of the Arts, Literary, and Cultural Committee of Magazines Canada. Her own creative work has been published in numerous literary magazines, and her newest book of poetry is Calling It Back to Me, and is published by McClelland and Stewart. Over to you, Laurie.
Thank you, Joyce. I want to say a few things about ads. Ads that we put out into the world and ads that we host in our various venues. This is the true brick form. We track as much as we can. Tracking is hard. Tracking is the thing that gets quite often has to get abandoned when there's too much work to do. But I can't overemphasize how important it is to try to measure how these things we do work. And one of the things that we try to measure is how the ads we send out perform. One way, kind of the only way that we really have to measure how an ad does is to include a little checkbox in the checkout area of our website that says, "How did you hear of Brick?" And then to list all the ways in which a person could have found your magazine out in the wild. Uh, in a library, in a bookstore, in an ad in this magazine, in an ad in this magazine, from a friend, etc. Just listing every possible way that your magazine is found. And so it's through that kind of tracking that we get a sense of which ads work for us. Now, we don't have an exorbitant ad budget. We are mostly negotiating trades with other publications, and we have found a few trades yielding some really positive results for us. And so we cling to those. We do them. They've become a regular part of our operations is to book ads at this time and this time in these following magazines. And from time to time, in fact, we're getting done with this right now. We did a project grant funded ad campaign that allowed us to buy a few spots in these magazines that we trade with. So keeping an eye on where you are successful is a really useful thing. And that can only really be done by just testing out a swap. So finding a magazine that you suspect is doing similar things to you, and you really can only learn this by reading other literary magazines, getting to know them, getting to know the work they do, getting to know the people who publish them, etc. So finding a like-minded magazine and asking if they would be interested in swapping ads either in print or elsewhere. I'll get to that in a little bit too. Then you measure what the response is, and it depends on what your goal is. You know, it could be that you want contest subscriptions. It could be that you want orders. It could be that you want more traffic to your website. It could be that you want more newsletter subscribers. Like you can have particular goals in mind for these ads as well, and try your best to measure response to them. The making of ads also can be somewhat one and done if you wanted to as well, to have something designed that you can then send out to a few different places, and it might just require like a quick resizing here and there, etc. So there are ways to make ads a really low impact thing for you that yields a bit of response. And similar to events, which I talked about in another module, ads are cumulative things. Putting one ad in a magazine may have an effect, may have no effect, but putting ads in cumulative issues or having ads at regular times of year in a magazine can be really useful. I forget what the stat is. There are stats out there. There are all kinds of things that people say about how many times you have to see an image before you respond to it, and the numbers. Like it takes, I think, two hands to really kind of sink in for someone to see the presence of your brand or your magazine a number of times, and then you're like, hey, I should probably pick up a copy of that. So being somewhat regular with ad swaps is a useful thing. We also accept ads. We host print ads in our magazine. And of late, we have done a little more work around hosting web ads, posting ads on our website and in our monthly newsletter. And we have recently as well tested out sponsored ads, sponsored newsletters, which have yielded good results so far. And that's somewhat ongoing for us, the building of those. So print ads have been somewhat long running in Brick. We have a section in the back of the magazine where we host all manner of ads. And I say all manner, but I think it's rather a certain subsector of ads. We don't have a dedicated, well, we no, okay. We do ad sales off the sides of our desk. Every staff member is charged with helping out when it comes to placing ads in Bricks issues. And we also engage a freelance ad expert to help us out with the odd sale here and there. Uh, but we will largely receive a good response to an ad pitch from a fellow independent publisher. We publish a lot of, or we host a lot of ads for independent presses, for literary prizes, for art centers, theaters, art galleries. That's university writing programs. There's a sector of artistic and literary entities that have found that they get a good response rate to having an ad in Brick. And so that's where we start. And that's kind of the sum total of our energies. If we had a person on staff who just did ad sales, we'd probably get the sorts of ads you see in the front of the Paris Review, and get some fashion stuff and some cars and whatnot. But we like it just fine how we have it, and we love hosting these like-minded publishers and literary folks in each issue, and it seems to work quite well. We have also found that because Brick only comes out twice a year, and because the times of publication are June and December, which don't quite hit the spring and fall hectic literary seasons quite so well, we found that hosting ads on our website and in our newsletter to be a really effective way to reach potential advertisers who the timing of their event, their festival, etc., doesn't quite fit with our publication schedule. So that has been a really useful tool for us, or a way to host the like-minded. And we don't have outrageously high web traffic. We have it, but it's good. And it's growing is another thing. That's maybe another subject for another webinar, but our web traffic is up in an age when we're seeing AI kind of thieving everyone's web stats. But so we will host ads from literary types on our website. We ask them to send ads in a couple of different sizes so they can fit in certain places, and we just kind of just keep that as a mildly ongoing task that we do throughout the year, is just to check in with certain festivals and certain um, other entities to see if they would host or if they want to have an ad on our online places. We will also include web and newsletter ads as a special bonus to booking print ads. If you're a first-time print advertiser in Brick, you get a free web or newsletter ad. It works as a bit of a value added thing as well. And a sponsored newsletter is a new-ish thing that we're trying out, as I mentioned, and it works quite well, especially when it is well matched to Brick's readership. So that means for us publishers wanting to introduce readers to books that they know our readers will be particularly aligned with. And it has had a good response for us. We were wondering uh, like how this would affect our newsletter subscribers, and it hasn't caused anyone to flee. Our subscriber numbers have maintained, and response rate is on par with our regular monthly newsletter as well. So we send that sponsored ad out, and it gets the opens and clicks that any other of our newsletters get. And I think that's because the ones that we host are quite aligned with our readership. So those are some things to consider in terms of ads that you put out into the world, and ads that you host and how you host them. I didn't even get into social media and stuff like that, but we'll save that for another time. Thanks for listening. I wanted to talk just briefly about one example of a project that we tested out to some success, and that was around gift subscriptions. Brick, as I've mentioned in other webinars, is constrained in terms of its budget for things outside of regular operations. And so any special projects that we undertake have to at least break even. We can't really countenance testing things out and having them flop. Our margins aren't such that we can do that. But one area that we were able to test, and which yielded really good results, was in the area of the year-end gift subscription campaign. And if you're not doing something of this sort yet, I would really encourage it. It's something that we have traditionally folded into an existing fundraising campaign that we do at the end of each year. Brick is not a charity, but we do still fundraise to our subscribers, who are a lot of them readers, artists, a lot of them readers, a lot of them are writers, a lot of them are artists, a lot of them work in the arts and in the literary field, and they have a sense of what it takes to operate a magazine like Brick. And so we appeal to them at the end of every year and say, help keep us going. Um, please give whatever you can. We can't give out tax receipts. We make that very clear, but we get donations from that, and that really buoys our year. That kind of carries us through the leaner times to do that kind of fundraising. We have traditionally in our fundraising letter, I will write a 2-page letter, and we will include with it a form that every professional circulation person has told me is ill-advised because it's a big, busy form. Lots of check boxes, lots of small print, lots of things to fill out. And we will put gifts, you put your donation amount in there. You say if you want to be anonymous, you say what kind of gift we can give you, because that's what we do instead of the tax receipt is we will give you, for this amount, we'll give you this tote bag, and for this amount, we'll give you this piece of merch, etc. In addition, on that form, there's also space to renew your own subscription and space to give a gift subscription to one or more people. And that has been a really good vehicle for us year to year. And so we wanted to test doing an independent mailing of just around gift subscriptions. And that it worked in a nutshell. So to cost out the price of mailing, to cost out what kind of printing you would have to do, that needs to be done. But one tip I would suggest is the more personal and the more homemade, the better for a magazine, for a literary magazine that could. To show the seams in your operations is can be a good thing. It can be a thing that comes off as a little more personal. It can be a way to indicate that you are not a big monolithic entity that someone would be throwing their however many dollars a subscription is at. So it doesn't have to be a super shiny, polished thing, and we have found that it even works to our benefit to not make it that. And to know basically what success looks like is the key. So we don't send these sorts of campaigns to every one of our subscribers. We send to the most dedicated, the long-term subscribers, the subscribers that are local, more local to us, and the ones that have in the past given us gifts. We're tracking every bit of information we can. So we have a sense of who's given gifts in the past. We know who's donated in the past, that kind of thing. So we tailor our gift campaign to a dedicated group and send it out. And we've done this on the level of emails as well, which eliminates that much more cost. The response isn't quite as good for a magazine like us, but that is a really easy thing to test, to concoct a, hey, give a gift this season email and to send it out to your subscribers, test the results. You'll get some really, really useful information. So that's one thing that we've done that seems to work really well. Events for us these days are great. Gift subscription campaigns work wonderfully, and the efficacy of ad sales for us. These are the 3 key things that are keeping the magazine going. Thanks very much.
Can you tell me a little bit about what Brick's primary sources of circulation are? Is it new sources, new subscribers, or renewals, and
Great.
how you go about managing that?
Yes. Brick's main or most reliable source of subscriptions is the renewal still. That's maybe something that a lot of people have heard before, but that is the most financially efficacious way to ground a subscriber base is to reach the people who know your magazine already and to entice them, give them the compelling reason to subscribe. So that's A1. We pay a lot of attention to our renewals and how they're doing. Um, in terms of new subscribers, for us lately, that has been, well, I should say, for us over the long term, it has been word of mouth or the sort of personal recommendation that has been really important for us. So we will often hear that someone was given Brick by a friend or someone, like it was either a gift subscription that was given and then they remain a regular subscriber after that. Or a friend will just lend a copy to another friend and that usually yields subscriptions. But taking Brick out to events has been, especially of late, a really significant way to introduce the magazine to new subscribers, and they're pretty loyal too. And in fact, a lot of people will return to the same fair the next year to renew their subscription for another year. So that's been a pretty special thing for us. Seeing Brick in bookstores and libraries is pretty key. So we try to make sure that we're still present there on newsstands. And we have also lately found that in inviting submitters to the magazine to then also buy a back issue or subscribe at a discount is a good way to introduce people who want to contribute to the magazine to the work we do and to give them some sort of incentive to get to know the magazine. There are other methods. As I mentioned, there are some ads. We do an ad swap with Harper's, and we do a paid free or a paid slash swap with Paris Review, where we get a discounted rate to place some ads in the Paris Review. Those two are wildly popular for us. We get lots of subscriptions off those two ad placements. We have recently put a couple of ads in a literary podcast, and that has been really beneficial again because it's kind of really well aligned with the magazine. But yeah, that's in a very, I guess, broad nutshell where our readers come from and where our subscribers come from.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about record keeping for all of these different things? A lot of small magazines don't have access to software as a service or big fulfillment companies. So
Yes.
how do you manage that file?
We do it pretty simply. We we just keep a Google sheet, uh, a big unwieldy Google sheet where we can sort and filter information. We too are not really able to pay subscription fees for this kind of software. So we are making the 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 database ourselves essentially using a free platform. We did have FileMaker once upon a time, back when you just paid for software the once, you purchased it and then you had it for keeps. But then in an emergency in March of 2020, we transferred everything over to an online to a Google sheet just because we had to do something that was suddenly remote friendly. So we have stuck there and we haven't found an alternative that makes sense for us yet. So it truly doesn't have to be that you buy into a massive, expensive a subscription for specialized software. It's you just have to do that kind of recording yourself. And the downside is that it does take some effort and time on the administrative side to do that recording and to maintain those massive spreadsheets of information, but they're also very pliable. You can if you set it up well and you track things consistently, you can use those free methods pretty well.
So going into imagining and prioritizing and developing project plans, how do you involve your teammates
Mhm.
and to an extent an advisory board, for example, in designing projects to ensure that you have buy-in,
Yes.
um, and that the projects will be a success?
Yeah. So the editorial board of Brick is 6 people, and they're the ones who are scouting for material for each issue of the magazine and reading through what contributions come in and deciding what goes into each issue. They're also the ideas people. I'm also on the editorial board with um, Dion Brand, Madeline Tien, David Cheriandy, Michael Helm, and Liz Johnston, who was a former managing editor of Brick. And our job as an editorial board is just to be thinking and imagining about what this magazine is, who it's for, what it publishes, what's most urgent, what would be the best things to be done for it and with it, etc. So that level of really high up thinking involves the staff as well. We have regular editorial meetings where we're kind of thinking through this stuff all together. This Brick staff, there are 3 of us, 4 of us now, part-time, a managing editor, Orly Zebak, Rachel Gary, who's a associate editor, Khalida Hassan, also associate editor, and me as publisher. And there's also a designer and art director, Mark Bick. We have a more zoomed in view of the day-to-day functioning of the thing. We're doing all the work, and truly it's the others, and I'm kind of standing back a bit more, but it's Orly and Rachel and Cleta and Mark who are doing the labor of getting the magazine out there and doing all the other work that needs to be done for it to function. And I am kind of in between that editorial board and staff in a way, kind of doing that middle viewing as to general direction and how if the wings are straight and stuff. So we do um and as I say, like everyone's kind of imagining that the editorial board does their thinking, and then the staff also is like, it'd be great, like, or what I'm seeing, or like here's what we should try, or here's what urgently needs to be fixed. And those conversations are just kind of an ongoing thing for us, and it's something that I take special note of, as I try to just be kind of the minder of those conversations, to hold them in mind. And I've also made an informal strategic plan for the magazine, which I kind of think of as like a 3-year to-do list, where we um, again, around these sorts of big conversations about what the magazine is, we kind of declare what we want, uh, say some things about what we think is important, and then I'm especially formulating a work plan around that. Like, we should, in the next 3 years, try to accomplish or at least look into these following things. So all of those parts together are kind of helping us decide what we do and what comes next to do, aside from just the meat and potatoes of running a magazine. And it's not me alone. It's like it's often the staff and in some cases the editors who are like, what's feeling urgent is this. And so we're just kind of constantly talking together about that kind of prioritization and what needs to be done. And I've got by now lengthy experience in how to kind of make this machine run so I can sense when it's like, ooh, it's time for this now. We've been talking about it for a while and it's appearing like we need to respond, that kind of thing. So I don't know if that answers the question
Yep.
because it seems like it's a really amorphous thing, but it's just this constant ongoing thing in the way we run.
I know you talked about event participation has to make money for the organization, so
Mhm.
that's understandable. Can you just return to the to those projects
Mhm.
and give us a quick rundown of some of the metrics that you would use to evaluate whether a project has been successful for Brick and whether
Right.
you'll repeat it again on your own?
The things that make a project successful for Brick, they're the easiest one is financial. How much money did we spend on it? How much money are we bringing in? But there are some other things that make a difference, and one of them is was this how much staff effort did this require? Because we don't always or can't always properly account for staff hours for extra things. And this is kind of at the heart of why we apply for project grants. Did this event require an immense amount of effort that is not commensurate with what we got in response to it? That's a question in our heads always. Is the event we've gone to, is it well organized? Does it appear that they're in a good financial situation themselves? Do they have good marketing? Is the apparatus of the event like a well-oiled machine? That has an effect on how we decide to continue or not. Um, those are the two that I can think of offhand. But a successful event, in a nutshell, has good organization and good promotion and an affordable entry fee and a really enthusiastic and aligned audience. Those are kind of the four main things that we're looking at.
That
Is
was
that it?
tremendous. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
good, good,
Yeah,
good.
yeah. No, that was chock full of this is how we do it.